Tonight, what I would like to go over is something I haven't really touched upon at all, and that is gun control. My gosh, it's like big right now. You're hearing gun control all over the place. You know, if you read the foreign press, some countries, they try to make it sound like America's so backward because Americans own guns. Now, America is not the only country that allows gun ownership, okay? But it is, I believe, the only country that includes within its constitution or foundational law the right to bear arms. And I want to explain this. And I'm not going to go over statistics. I could go over for hours fights over statistics, homicide rates, what gets included as a homicide, and so forth. Okay? I mean, I will point out that when you talk about gun deaths, and this is something a lot of people don't realize, gun deaths can actually include such things as when the police shoot someone. Okay? That's included as a gun death. But yet when it's all lumped together, it's sort of like when certain organizations, which shall remain anonymous at this point, but that they say that they promote family planning in the United States, and they'll talk about teen pregnancy. And then when you ask them what gets included as a teen pregnancy, and they actually will admit, if you prod them a little bit, that a married woman who's 20 years old and has a baby just before her 21st birthday gets included as a teen. It still gets included, I'm sorry there, the little cutoff, still gets included as a teen pregnancy. And so a lot of gun statistics where it makes it look as if these are homicides, they don't break down the homicides as type. Is a suicide a homicide? No, but it still gets included in gun deaths. When gangs shoot it out, okay, that is actually a homicide. And some would say that should be included in the gun death statistic. But again, it's what people perceive as the truth that really is the truth. It's not necessarily though the actual image. So if you've got some mobsters shooting it out and one of them gets killed, still, when you throw in gun deaths, it makes it look like this is just some poor, innocent individual. So, but I don't want to talk about that so much. What I want to talk about, though, is this whole idea of the Second Amendment. Now, I've seen some very good presentations about this. In fact, I would encourage people to check Google and Google Penn and Teller gun control. And there's a really, really good explanation on what the Second Amendment was really all about. And again, I would encourage people to go there. But instead of really going into a whole bunch of detail about the arguments over where the comma is, which I know America's a legalistic country and we got more lawyers than all the other countries combined because we argue over where's the comma in a text. But you know, if there was a mistake, if Americans were not allowed to own weapons during the founding father era, and it was all supposed to just be something involving a well-regulated militia, which sounds like the National Guard. And of course, the National Guard is not just a group of guys that get together on the weekend. I mean, it actually is something that is military and is ultimately controlled technically through the state governments, can be nationalized in event of emergency. Now, the thing is, wouldn't the founding fathers, some of those founding fathers, have actually said that there should be gun control? That maybe people had mistaken the meaning of the Second Amendment? Now, I just like to bring in a few quotes here. To some of my foreign listeners, this may sound really weird, okay? Because in most foreign countries, including Western Europe, you don't really promote an idea of an adversarial relationship between the people and the government. And I think America could be somewhat unique in that respect. But America was, to a large degree, influenced by the ideas of John Locke. And John Locke did say that when people's natural rights, not the rights given to them by government, but their natural rights that they were given by God at birth, and their virtue of being a human being, when those were violated, you had the right to rebel. Okay? Now, most countries don't have that. They don't have that little prenuptial agreement between government and the people. So, this may sound kind of shocking to people from other countries. But let me read a few of the quotes here from some of the people that, gosh, I would have thought that they would have known if the Second Amendment was not really for people owning weapons on their, and that being a right. And let's just start here with James Madison. Oppressors can tyrannize only when they achieve a standing army, an enslaved press, and a disarmed populace. Let me repeat that. Oppressors can tyrannize only when they achieve a standing army, an enslaved press, and a disarmed populace. Now, the United States had a tradition of not really supporting large standing armies until basically World War II. Okay? America tried to pick a fight with the British over Canada back in 1812. Yeah, that was actually America kind of poking there. They felt that Britain should be thrown out of the Western Hemisphere, kind of reminiscent of later, the Monroe, or I'm getting the dates on when Monroe was president, but that whole Monroe Doctrine. And what happened was, of course, America tried to get a bunch of military people together, form, call men to arms, and it just didn't work out very well. People weren't totally excited about going and taking Canada. And so, British came, burnt down the White House, and Andrew Jackson defeated them in New Orleans and so forth. But, ultimately, standing armies were not something America really wanted to do, much opposed as it was to Europe. Europe, a lot of countries had standing armies, and they like to parade them around a lot and dress them up, and that was sort of the way the king or what even a parliament could, the leaders could, say this is our empire and don't mess with us type of thing. America didn't do that, and it wasn't until World War II that really changed. But ultimately, disarmed populace. Now, let's go to another one. Oh, yes, Thomas Jefferson. Didn't sign the Constitution, but, he was around during this time and was really a promoter of civil liberties. He stated, laws that forbid the carrying of arms disarm only those who are neither inclined nor determined to commit crimes. Such laws make things worse for the assaulted and better for the assailants. They serve better to encourage than to prevent homicides, for an unarmed man may be attacked with greater confidence than an armed man. Okay, it makes perfect sense. I mean, if you want to do something really, really, really bad to someone, okay, you put yourself into their shoes. And you got two houses on the block that are potential victims. One of them, you notice a gun rack in the back of a guy's pickup truck parked in the driveway. He's got an NRA sticker on his truck. And, you just kind of know they have guns. And the other neighbor has something about, give peace a chance and, the only arms we need are for hugging, those kinds of bumper stickers. Who are you going to go after? Okay, obviously you're going to go after the one, with all the peaceful stuff, because they're going to be an easier target for whatever nasty thing you're going to do. And in fact, in a sense, that actually can encourage crime. In the cases of rape, I mean, if if you're in a country that bans any kind of self-defense weapons, then if you're some big guy, then you know that you can overpower your assailant. In the United States, you don't know if the jogger that you've just spotted on the trail could have a small gun, tucked away, and, in her jacket or something. If you go after her, you see, I can't remember who it was. What was that quote? Something about pistol, some brand of pistol in the 19th century, and it was about God made man, but this particular gun made men equal. It also makes women equal in that sense. You can have some little 5'2" gal, and it's not so much the size of the guy coming at her that's going to count. It's the caliber of the bullet that she has hidden away in her gun, which is hidden away in, her jacket or whatever. So ultimately, many rapists are probably detoured. They're probably like, well, what is the risk here of going after this person? It could be death in America. Other countries might not be so much of a chance of, this resulting in your family burying you in a few days. Now, we can then go to George Washington, father of the United States, who stated, "A free people ought not only to be armed and disciplined, but they should have sufficient arms and ammunition to maintain a status of independence from any who might attempt to abuse them, which would include their own government." See, echoes of John Locke there. Okay, echoes of John Locke. That's coming through with that. Now, in the remaining minutes, what I just want to point out here is this. There is no such thing as gun control in the modern world. There is gun allocation or designation, but not gun control in the sense of getting rid of the guns. Now, I remember there was one Democrat who was running for governor. I think he was eventually successful in Oregon. And I listened to him at the University of Oregon during one of his presentations, and someone asked him about gun control. And he just flat out said, is it a good idea to only allow the police and the military to be the ones that had the guns? Now, that was a very good point. Is it a good idea to only have the police and the military being the ones that have the guns? So you see, gun control, if you're saying, well, guns are bad, because most people that are for gun control automatically feel that guns are bad, the only thing they're controlling is if the citizens have guns. It doesn't count for the police, does not count for the government, military, and so forth. And as we saw with warnings from, founding fathers, that is something that maybe provides a certain counterbalance, okay, in the government's eyes, and also provides a certain level of maybe self-empowerment in regards to the people. Now, true, the people versus a cruise missile, if, we wound up with a dystopian future in the United States, of course the government has the cruise missiles. However, I would note, in Afghanistan, you've got a lot of people that are using arms that are not very powerful, and no one's, most of Afghanistan was never defeated by the NATO forces. Okay, if you look at a map, most of Afghanistan is not under control of NATO forces. And why is that? They don't have very good arms. Well, obviously, having any arms is, lethal to any kind of army in the area, including the United States one. So ultimately, gun control itself is a misnomer. It's not something that really should even be used in the argument. What both liberals and conservatives, and, well, in fairness, there's lots of liberals who actually support the Second Amendment. But the thing is, they should at least be honest and say that what they want is to disarm the general public. Okay? Disarm the general public. That's what's meant by modern day gun control. Not get rid of guns, but to disarm the public. And I will note that many of the people that are promoting gun control or disarming the public, they're rich celebrities and so forth that have armed guards, okay, that protect them. So they're protected, but they feel like maybe you're not as important as they are. So they, you shouldn't be trusted with this, but they could trust their security people to be armed and protect them. So think about that the next time you hear about that issue of gun control. Okay? Anyway, that's about all the time we have here. So take care and hope to see you back next week here at Unlock the Door Radio produced by UCYTV Productions. Take care.
You are listening to UCY.TV. Why don't you stick around for